Okay, welcome. This is Bywater Solutions First Explore the Possibilities webinar series, and we're going to talk about implementing Koha at your library. My name is Kelly, and I'm part of the sales team, and I'll be walking you through this great presentation today. And I'm also joined by a few others. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Jessie Zaro. We're here to help Kelly. If you have any questions, we'll keep an eye on chat for you.
Hi, I'm Adam Brooks. I'm the Koha sales consultant for Bywater Solutions.
I love how you both waved. We are recording this session and we'll send it out. We also upload all our webinar series on our YouTube channel, so we can share that with you. If there are any topics that we've done and you wanted to visit those, please feel free. Everything that we have is on our YouTube channel. And at the end of my presentation, we'll pop over to the Bywater Solutions page just to show you where you can get some more resources if you are interested in Koha or other products that we do support. So today we are going to talk about implementing Koha at your library. You know, this is kind of one of those steps that y'all may be thinking about. Changing ILS providers or looking around to see what else is out there. Maybe Bywater is a buzzword you've heard a few places. So we're going to talk about that process and just how we can work with you. A little bit about Bywater Solutions. We are a support and hosting company for open source software. So Koha is an open source software. You hire us, so we do all the heavy lifting, we do all the hosting, we do your upgrades and supports, and you use us for anything that you need. And that begins at the implementation process. So that's what we're really going to talk about today. One of the key parts of migrating to a new ILS, to Koha, would be that data manipulation. And the great part about the data manipulation, it's kind of like cleaning house or, you know, gathering all those skeletons you might have pushed into the corners, and really dive into the data that you have and then talk about how it's going to migrate over to Koha. We have a data migration specialist that would work with your library and analyze the data that you extract, so we can talk and have further conversations on how that is going to work in Koha, and we'll go into what we can migrate in a second. But it's a really great first step in the implementation process is get that data. And what our biggest plan is in the beginning is making sure that all the pieces fit together and we can get you a test site so you can start playing around and seeing what what your data looks like on Koha specifically, which I love. And we find that the data part is very, very important, and we want to give it its own slide. This is just a very, very simple timeline on how you're going to migrate to Koha. But what is great to know is there are some milestones and some great feelings as you get to each one of those milestones. You know, you do a lot of discovery and exploration of ILSs. And when you finally decide Bywater Solutions and Koha is your go-to, then you're going to have a kickoff call where you're going to meet your kind of implementation team. That kickoff call will include your educator, your data specialist, project manager, someone from our systems team, and of course the sales manager you've been working with. This is a great time and an opportunity to learn about us, and again, us to learn about you in a little bit more in-depth process. We're also going to do a lot of our, kind of overarching goals in the process of, what your objectives are. In addition to getting a new ILS, you could have other objectives, and we want to hear about all of those and make sure that we're successful in all that. The next piece is we are going to have you extract your data from your current ILS, and then we are going to map and analyze that data. During that process, we will talk to you, and our educator and our data migration specialist will be there to talk about that data and how it works and interacts in Koha, as well as talking about the workflows in your library specifically. Koha is very customizable in how it operates. You can use it as a small one-room library, or you could use it at a library that has over 100 branches. It is very customizable, and we will cater the Koha system to how it fits with your library and your library's needs. That time between data migration and training is quite extensive in just talking about Koha and your workflow specifically. So we want to hear about how you want Koha to work best for your library. We'll talk about how to customize Koha, how the look and the feel will look for both your OPAC and your staff client. And we're also talking about your data. So as we, ramp up to that training, what we're going to present to you before your training is a test site. That test site is going to be the opportunity for you and your staff to explore what your data looks like on the Koha site, both the staff side and the OPAC, and you'll have the ability to go in and play around with it, because that's the most important, is you getting in there and getting your hands dirty. Part of your training, you'll do more hands-on experience with the Koha system, again, with that test site, with your patron data, with your bibliographic data, and can further customize on how it's going to work for your library. We'll also provide you with resources and ways for you to continuously learn how to use Koha and get in there and do step-by-step pieces of maybe your workflow. That leads us right into the testing phase. And I believe the testing phase starts the minute you get your test server all the way up into go live. And this is an opportunity to, after training, take what you've learned and start implementing it in your day-to-day operations. Now, you're still not live on Koha, but you do have access to that test site, and you're able to really work through those workflows that you do individually at your library. Maybe you focus on the patron side of it and managing overdues and things like that. You can get into that Koha test site and see what you would do. Maybe look at what your notices say and have those customized to what you want them to say now, because you can customize your notices as well as many other things. At this point, we're really ramping up for your Koha Go Live, where you're going to officially move over to Koha and leave your ILS. So again, you're going to take that one last data extract of your data, because what we're going to do is we're going to put you on a live site with very live data. So you've been working with past data. Now we're going to make sure that that weekend we take all your live data and put it on the new site. So Monday morning you come in and you're able to see exactly what has happened up until that point. And that's like our little victory, is getting to that go live. But it really doesn't stop there. As Bywater, we're your support company. So the beginning kickoff call, or meeting your salesperson, or attending your first webinar is really where our relationship starts. And it will not end after your implementation. As you go live, you're going to be able to submit tickets, email us, talk to us in Slack, join the Koha community. So there's just so much more that's going to happen. So let's dig into a few of these steps. That data extraction, you're thinking, holy moly, that's a lot of data that's living in my system. We want it all. Bibliographic records, item records, authority records, all your borrower details, all your checkouts, completed checkouts, so we can bring over that historic data, finds, holds, serial data, vendor information, whatever you're using in your current ILS, we want to see it, because we want you to have as much data into your Koha as you had in your other system. So this is a great opportunity for you to extract it, see what our data migration specialist talks about, and then help manipulate that data to fit into Koha. We've worked with pretty much every ILS provider out there, so the data that you provide to us is not going to be any shock. We're able to manipulate that in many ways. It's not my specialty, let me tell you, at all. Data is not my forte. Now, we're going to try to organize your data in a way to really make it work in Koha. as well as, and we'll get to that in the next slide, so I can't get too excited, really talking about maybe cleaning things up or looking at a different way, how it works. We're going to talk about patron categories. Patron categories are one of the ways that you at your library can identify circulation and find rules. So, you know, your residents or non-residents, your students, your faculty, your community members, adult, child, organizations, other libraries. Those are going to be patron categories. So you start spinning your wheels on those circulation and find rules and say, okay, well, I know my residents are these people, and then my non-residents are these, or my students and my community members. You're able to create as many patron categories as you want in the system. And we're able to, if you say, oh my goodness, we have 150 patron categories in our old ILS system, can we combine them? Yes, you can. And that's going to be the answer to most of the questions. We will help you work with your data. So if you want to start cleaning it up or making changes, now's the opportunity. The next one is item types. Item types are like material types, if that's what you're familiar with in your current ILS, book, audiobook, DVD, playaways, Blu-rays, large print, that drives circulation. So both with patron categories and item types, that's how you're going to identify circulation, but also identify material type for your users to know what they're looking at in the OPAC. Am I looking at a large print item or am I looking at a DVD? So those are your item types. Again, we're happy to work with you with your data to join item types together, take things apart and make them more unique. That's perfectly okay. Shelving locations. Shelving locations is a great way to look at your library to say what lives over in this area and what's this area called by our staff. So we may call this the children's room. Maybe that's a shelving area, or reference. That's a shelving area. You could be as adult, you could be as specific as second floor DVD collection and first floor DVD collection. It's a way to help your users find the material. And maybe your new library staff find the material as well. Shelving locations, where does it live in the library? Again, you're more than welcome to have as many shelving locations as you want in the system. It's just a great way to analyze how your users are going to find that. There is actually the ability to color code shelving locations, which I always think is really funny, but I know that there's one library that we have as a partner that actually does use that in their own library. So it's the green section or the blue section, and they're able to identify that in Koha, which I love to see how it's working with the Koha system. Collection codes. That's the last way that Koha is going to allow you to kind of organize your material within the system. Now, this is not necessarily a material type. This is not necessarily where it lives in your library, but this is another way to kind of organize your data. An example I always give, so I probably, if you've ever heard me talk, I sound like a broken record, but is graphic novels. Graphic novels is a great collection code because they live everywhere. They could live in the kids' fiction, kids' nonfiction, adult fiction. They could live in reference or a special area. So you're able to allow your user to search a collection in your library. At my library in Vermont, when I worked with Koha in Vermont, we had a Vermont collection. So if somebody was interested in the history of Vermont, again, they didn't all live together, but they were able to search those. Holiday books, maybe romance, those all don't live maybe together. So the options are endless. There was actually, we'll talk a little bit about communication in a second, but there was a great conversation by Water Partners. So once you're a partner with us, you have access to a Slack channel that you could talk to other Koha users. And there was a great conversation about a librarian that was moving over to Koha and asking other librarians their ideas behind shelving locations and collection codes. And it was a great conversation where libraries were using no shelving locations or libraries were using no collection codes, but kind of getting pros and cons of what to do. And other libraries were sharing how they were doing it. So it was really fantastic. Again, I love that community aspect, and I love the idea of getting others' opinions as you migrate to Koha and say, we can kind of like throw it up in the air and change it all around. Like Marie Kondo, but we don't want to get rid of any of our books. we are going to work with you on codes. Now, this is kind of like blah, blah, this is not really something you need to worry too much about, but it's great to note that we're going to work with you on putting things into the database for code. So, we're going to make things really short. So if your shelving location was second floor DVD collection, it may be 2 DVD is your code, short and sweet. 10 characters or less, no special characters and no spaces. And we're going to work with you. But this is something to note because a lot of the places in Koha where you're going to add codes are in the authorized values. And those are all the dropdowns that you're able to manipulate. Or 6 months after you migrate, you may say, I want a new shelving location. And this guidelines of how to create codes, you can do it yourself. I've alluded to this a bit, but embrace the opportunity to really look at a lot of different things as you start talking about Koha, exploring Koha. And once your data is kind of manipulated, start thinking about the patron experience. So we talked about shelving locations and collection codes and item types, how your patron's going to see those on the OPAC, how they're going to interact with that, how they're going to identify what that means with real life. So you can start kind of seeing how a patron would experience the Koha OPAC. I worked with a library that actually had I don't even know what it's called, like a test group that actually got to explore the test site during the implementation, so they could give feedback as well for the Koha OPAC. So think about that patron experience. You're not buckled into anything concrete. You don't have to do it exactly how you did it in your other system, especially if you know there's a better or an easier way. Simplicity. You may have a million and trillion of something that you're like, I don't really need all these. You could simplify. So we're going to help you manipulate that data, change the data if you want. If you say, hey, we have this separated out and we don't know why, let's put those together. Let's do that. That's part of the process. And finally, organization. Making it so you can organize your data and really understand where your data is coming from. And that's going to give you a better idea going forward using Koha, how your data is in Koha. And that's a great learning tool because that will help you with reports and looking at the schema and really identifying data points that you can report on. So, going back to that little pretty chart of how we were going to our go live, one of the parts of it was kind of like training and, implementation. So we're going to have a lot of conversations with you and maybe different parts of your staff, depending on, maybe we're talking about cataloging workflows. So we're going to have some calls about those, maybe through Zoom. Have those policy calls with specific individuals to make sure that we're getting each of these modules to the best workflow. So we probably believe communication is like overload, but we're trying to communicate to you as much as we can so you are prepared. So we're going to use, lots of calls to talk about policies, your library policies, your workflows. And maybe we'll talk about all those connections with our systems team. So if you had SIP connections or self-checkout machines, that's part of the implementation. We're going to work with you on all the things that make it live with Koha as our goal. We're going to have a test site, and we want to talk to you, and we want to make sure that you will have access to and feel comfortable using that test site, because that's part of that implementation. And then, of course, that training that we're going to do, where we're going to, have lots of hands-on, do lots of scanning of books and cataloging of books and checking things out and checking things in. Before I came to sales, I was an educator, so I kind of know this part, but it's an opportunity to really get into the system and see how it works. We really, really want you all to test in the system. So again, you're using that test site, your own data, your own patron data. I had a person who in training looked up that, that fun patron that there was lots of notes on, just to see how it looked like in Koha. So remembering the data or looking at that really odd bibliographic record to say, okay, how does it look in Koha? So having that opportunity to get into the system and see how it looks, or to say, oh, it was really hard to go from this to this. How can I do that in Koha? So we want you to test. We want you to feel the most comfortable. I can imagine, when we went from Microsoft Excel to Google Sheets, getting in there and kind of playing around. Where does this go? Where does this go? Making it so we understand how those options work. Same thing is working from your old ILS to Koha. Workflows, walking through what you do day to day. So you may, during the day, during testing, say, okay, how do I check out? I just currently checked out in my system. How do I check out in Koha? Or how do I do this really interesting thing that I never do, but I just did this one time and I want to see how it works? Familiarity, the worst word. I have to change that because I can never say it. Know your data. So see what it looks like that staff member did for that interesting patron that they had. And then communication. Talk to us. See if we can change how it works. It's not working the way you want it to, or you'd like to see it a little different. That's what we're here for. That's what our job is to make this transition as smooth as possible with as much hassle off of you and on to us so we can make it the best way we can. So that's what we're part of during this whole implementation process, is we're here with you working through these changes. I think Adam has migrated 2 libraries to Koha. So he 100% knows just staff questions, staff changes, how to transition, how to manage change, and communicating to us. We can certainly help with that. Our resources. So Koha is open source. Koha manual is online available. It's also available, clickable from your staff interface. So every staff member can easily click over to the help button and see exactly what they're looking for with screenshots and step-by-step. As I said earlier, we have a YouTube channel. So we have lots of tutorial videos that we've broken out by modules. So if you're really specific into the acquisition area and you want to see how that works, you can find an acquisition playlist, check out cataloging, what have you. We also know that everyone learns a little differently. So our training resource page will bring you to blog posts that are step-by-step and may or may not include a tutorial video. I actually really find that the tutorial videos I either have to watch really fast or really slow, depending. So you have that ability. They have closed captioning. There's, YouTube has created these chapter systems. So we're able to, like segment off tutorial videos. Jesse and I do a weekly Monday Minute tutorial video called Monday Minutes. So we break down one thing in Koha, and it's about 5 to 7 minutes. I say 7 minutes would be one that would be really long in our world, because we know everyone's time is short and we want you to be able to learn something really quick on a Monday morning or the Tuesday that you come in your Monday morning, and easily digest that and learn something new. Forever educating ourselves. And then finally, Bywater Solutions is a great resource, whether you're just exploring, you want to talk to somebody, you need to look at other things within our website, you can certainly use those resources as well. As I said earlier, communication. One of the things that we understand and believe as a migration to make it seamless is the more we communicate together, the more we talk about things, the more we ask questions, and we get our answers answered, our questions answered. So we feel the most confident during this process. We have a ticketing system that we set you up with, whether that's you individually as the director or as many staff members as you want, that you want them to be able to submit questions. We have a ticketing system, so you don't have to worry about somebody being in the office. It's going to go to somebody and everyone's going to have access to that ticket. We, of course, have email. Our phone number is an 888 number, so that's toll free. Not that that really matters anymore. Well, I guess maybe still people played long distance. I'm not sure that you can get a live person. I'm on the East Coast. We have people all the way on the West Coast, so we cover a lot of the time zones. And if we don't answer, It's going to go to email to the entire staff. So somebody's going to get to you as soon as possible. We also, as I mentioned earlier, have a Slack channel. So once you're a partner, you can talk to other libraries. It's fantastic. It's a great opportunity to really join together with other users of the system and communicate and talk and see how things are going. We didn't really talk too much about Koha being open source, but it's open source. And the Koha community, which is used worldwide, has a listserv as well. So more conversations about what receipt printers or how is everyone using this new feature, item recalls, because it just is a great way to communicate and talk to others that are using it. Or if you're having trouble with something, you of course have Bywater solutions, but you could ask other people as well. So I'd started with community just a minute ago, but understand that that's a huge part of using Koha is the community. Libraries all over the world. Koha was created in 1999 as an open source web-based product, and it's available to anyone who goes to the Koha community website. You can download it yourself. So it's millions of users use it all over the world. One of the great things is the integrations with vendors and products to make that daily life easier. So your SIP connections, connecting with Envisionware or Biblioteca, or those vendors that you purchase material from, Baker & Taylor and Ingram, EDI ordering, all of those connections we do for you. That's part of our support and hosting. There's no additional fees. It's all included. Any kind of integrations that you need, that's what we're here for. We're going to do all the heavy lifting. Developments. Koha has 2 upgrades a year. So that means you have the opportunity to receive features and enhancements twice. It's like Christmas twice. Getting gifts, it's like your birthday twice a year. Having the ability to have access to anything that was developed for the Koha community. If the library down the road paid for a development, or how to develop or create something and put it in Koha, everyone has access to it. You don't have to pay extra. It's available in your next release. It's all included. Working together. There's nothing better than getting together with people that use the Koha system, whether that's through a conference, a summit. Koha US is another example of a community organization that works together and says, hey, let's get together. Here's a group for just circulation folks. And they meet monthly and they talk about things, acquisitions monthly, developments monthly, and they have an annual conference as well. So you have KohaCon, which is worldwide. You have Koha US, which is North America, but anyone is welcome. I mean, there's no limit to who wants to come from anywhere. And it's the ability to say, wouldn't it be great? How can we make this happen? I would love to see this happen. And, the librarian next to me would love to see this happen. Okay, how do we do this? How do we use this community of amazing developers and users and make this better? Well, hopefully, I don't know if I've had any questions, but this is just an opportunity to tell you how your library can implement Koha. We are always welcome to questions. Give us a call, email us, check out our website. If you have any other further questions, I'll put that on my next slide. We have a couple more webinars coming up. Of course, there's one every month. We're going to talk more about getting into the Koha. We'll explore the Koha system next month, a couple days after Valentine's Day, because it's my one true love. And then we'll talk about open source in March and really dive into what it's open source, why choose open source, what's the advantages, and what do I gain from that? So that's a great one as well, if you're kind of intrigued with that open source lingo I was saying earlier. So again, here's our email. If you have any questions or you're interested in a personalized demo, give us an email, give us a call, check out our website, and we're always happy to help.